Hey, Thomas from Field Tennis. Today we're going to take a look at why is running around your backhand and hitting forehands so effective, not only on recreational level but also on the pro level, and also what you have to be careful about if you're choosing to run around your backhand and hit inside in or inside out forehand. So this strategy first became more prominent in the era of Steffi Graf on the women's side and Jim Courier on the men's side, because they had much better forehands than their backhands and they kept running around. And of course they opened up a lot of space on this side, but players, opponents, were struggling to take advantage of that opportunity, and many tennis coaches were wondering at that time how come this shot is so effective, because in other cases players can anticipate the direction much better, but in this case they have trouble anticipating whether there's going to be an inside out or an inside in forehand. And because they have this trouble of anticipating, they have trouble reading the shot. That's why these players could take this chance, leave a lot of the court open and still be successful. So in today's video we're gonna compare forehands from the normal for right-handers right side, normal side of the forehand, and also from running around. So on this side I'm gonna play neutral stance and open stance. I'm gonna hit down the line and cross court. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I will run around my backhand and hit inside out and inside in. And we're going to use two cameras, the front view from which your opponent would be observing you, so that you can kind of get an idea how to read the situation and how much trickier it is to read this forehand. And I also have a side camera, so we're going to take a look at the difference in the contact point and one of the main reasons why this inside out, inside in forehand is so effective.
So I have two forehands here. They're both hitting neutral stance. Right now they're at 50% speed, so that you can see that one of them is on the left I'm hitting down the line, and on the right I'm hitting cross court. So now if we go a bit slower and we come here to the contact point, what you will see is that the ball is further away from me. Here I'm going down the line, so the ball is further away from me in this perspective, right? From this perspective it seems further away than from this perspective. Of course I'm hitting the ball more or less at the same distance from me, except when I'm hitting cross court it's further more in front, so my arm is more extending forward, whereas on the down the line shot it's extending more to the left. Of course, this can deceive you a little bit when you look at the player after the contact, because you see more rotation here and you see here a bit longer alignment down the line. But of course you need to react before that, you need to anticipate before that. So this is maybe just like a confirmation, you're landing from the split step and now you can react. But you having an anticipation where the player is going to hit comes down to this mental image. How is the player aligning to the ball? Does the ball seem to be far from them or a little bit closer? So that's all that you're looking at. Like if this is my body and I put here like a little bigger circle around the ball, then you can easily tell that this one's a bit further from my body and this one's a bit closer, and that is your tell what is about to happen. So when the ball is approaching the player from this position, you're already able to tell with good probability, not 100%, but you're able to tell what is likely to happen. So now we have two forehands in open stance. So if I just play them through that you see, so on the left I'm hitting down the line and on the right I'm hitting cross court. And we're again looking, is it possible to anticipate with good probability what am I likely to play? So again, what we're looking at is the distance to the ball, aligning to the ball. So there are a little bit of different contact points, but you can see that we can tell a little bit by the distance, especially if I go to contact point like here. So they're both more or less synchronized to the contact point. And if we look at this distance from the body to the ball, then we can kind of tell. That's one of the tells. The other one is also the head position, like how am I looking at the ball. That can also be seen from the distance, because you can see I'm looking differently at the ball. So from your perspective, so here I'm more to the side, here I'm more like this. So when you're far from the player, it's impossible for you to tell there's a difference in the contact point, right? Because this ball I'm hitting on the, when I hit cross court, I'm hitting a little bit more in front of me, and this one is slightly later. But from this perspective, when we look at the player and things going on in real time, this is the difference maybe in a few hundredths of a second. So you cannot tell from the front view that there's a difference in the contact point, that I'm hitting cross court a bit more in front. You cannot see that, but you can see in my alignment. So you can see in terms of the head and body alignment and distance to the ball. So the distance to the ball is not super different here. It's not very significant, but there is some this difference in distance. If I put it like this, then you can see a little bit more extension on this side and a little bit less extension on this side. So that helps you anticipate what the player is up to. So here's a side view, and I want to show you the point that I mentioned, the difference in the contact point. So on the left side, I'm hitting down the line. So here I'm hitting down the line, and here I'm hitting more cross court. So this is something you cannot see from the front view. So from normal perspective, when you're looking at the player, you can't see. You can use other tells that I mentioned, but I just wanted to show you that there's a difference in the contact point. So when I'm hitting down the line, the contact point is a little bit closer to me, because I want the racket strings to be angled like this. And on this side, I want racket strings to be angled like this, so that the ball goes that way, right? So that automatically happens if I hit slightly more in front. So you can see the difference in the contact point. From this angle, it's quite obvious, but from watching in front, it's not obvious, right? So another way I can show you, if we just look on the left side, so this is contact point for down the line, and if I just go like one frame in front and I were to hit the ball at this contact point, then this ball would already be going cross court a little bit. And the more in front I hit, if I go one more frame, if I were to hit the ball at this contact point, then it would have gone even more diagonal. So I don't have to modify my stroke. I'm not changing anything in my technique. I'm just hitting the ball more in front for cross court. So if we now compare the inside out and inside in forehands, so I'm gonna play them at first at 50% speed, so that you can see better what's going on. You can see that on the left side I'm playing inside out, and on the right side I'm playing inside in. And so if we go a little bit slower to see if you can tell, based on my positioning, what am I going to play, you can see that right now, even in super slow motion, if we go like frame by frame, you still cannot tell what am I about to play, right? At this point you cannot tell. It's almost identical, right? So even if I zoom in, that we see a little bit closer, it's almost impossible to tell what am I about to play. So even in this position, you can see it's almost same distance. You can see almost same distance if you're trying to see how far is the ball from me, from the body, how am I aligning to the ball. You can see before we were looking at the distance from the body, so you can see it basically the same distance from the body. Even if we freeze frame and we look at this and you're trying to figure out where am I playing inside out, inside in, it's very hard to tell. So that's why this forehand is so difficult to anticipate. Of course, you will react, right? You're gonna do the split step and react and run. You will see on this side player rotating more this way, on this side this way. You're gonna see the ball fly, so you will react. But basically you cannot anticipate. As you're observing the player when they're setting up for the shot like this, you basically cannot anticipate where is this ball going, at least not with high probability, and then you only have reaction. And here are the same two forehands that you saw in the previous clip. They're now recorded from the side. So this was at 50% speed. So now if we go closer to the contact point and you see me lining up for the shot, basically you see it's almost the same, no real difference. And so the difference is here at contact point. So when I'm going inside out, then my contact point is closer to my body because I want my racket alignment to be more that way. And when I want inside in shot, then my contact point is a little bit more in front because I want this racket alignment. So in this way, down the line, right? I'm not going cross court. It's a down the line shot. And so that is the difference, as you can see here, in racket alignment at contact. And this racket alignment is simply created by different contact points. And as you can see, the difference in contact points is small. So the difference, how far is the contact point from the body, is quite small. And that's another reason why it's so difficult to tell where the player is hitting the ball.
So something you must keep in mind when you're attempting to run around your backhand and hit a forehand is of course your recovery position. So recovery position of course depends on where you played your shot, where is the middle of your opponent's possible angles. So I've marked it like this because I'm going to hit some balls in a minute and I don't want to step on the ball, so I've only marked it like here for you to see better. So here are the balls and this is the area I just marked here on the clay. So if I'm going to play the ball inside out, then my opponent's angles are down the line and again back cross court. And so the middle of their angle is somewhere here. So I need to recover to this position. So if I play the ball here, then of course I'm going to make it. It's quite close to me. So I'm running around. I can go back to this position. I'm in the middle of all possible shots of my opponent. But if I decide to play inside in shot, I go here and I hit forehand this way, then my opponent's possible shots are now down the line and sharper cross court. And the middle of their shots is somewhere here. So that's a problem because first of all, I'm quite far. And second of all, you might have a little bit of momentum still pushing you left. So you're going like this and you have a little bit of momentum which robs you maybe of half a second of recovery, and that might be enough for you not to recover to the right position, or at least to the middle, where you have good chance of catching that short cross court in case it happens. So if I'm going this way and I go inside in, I have to go very quickly, at least to the middle. That's minimum requirement, but I would aim to be a little bit over the center. And of course you must split step, otherwise you're vulnerable to wrong footing shots down the line. So you might attempt inside in, you go here and your opponent goes behind your back. And if you're not in a good split step, then you have a problem. If they do go behind your back and the shot is not too good, then they've made a tactical mistake because now you're in a position, in a good position, and you can go short cross court and make them run again. So it's like a game of chess. We both know what the most likely high probable shot opponent has to make and what is the low probability shot, and if they make the low probability and they don't hit it well, you know immediately how to punish them. So if I go inside out, that's my position here. Inside out, I go to this position. If I go inside in, I have to go immediately to this position. I go inside out, I go to this position. So in conclusion, why is the inside in, inside out forehand so effective? Well, because it's harder to read, for one, because of the positioning of the player. It's harder to tell whether the player is going down the line or cross court. And the second reason is, of course, that you're doing this way less than hitting forehands on this side, so your opponent has seen you many more times hitting a forehand from this side, and they have like more memory, more mental images of you hitting on this side, and they can tell better what are you up to. And on this side, first of all, it's easier to disguise your intention, and second of all, they haven't seen it so many times. So just keep in mind that you have to go to the right recovery position every time. This one is easy when you go inside out, this one is close, and this one is far. So if you do choose inside in shot, make sure it's at the right moment when your opponent was previously stretched quite wide, so that you're sure they're going to have a big trouble with this ball, because if they hit super short cross court, then you're in big trouble. So always, just in case, make sure you cover to the right position so that you have all the corners handled. So that's it for today. Let me know what you think about the inside out forehand strategy and if you're planning to implement it in your game, and I will see you next time.